All right, very excited for today's video because we are gonna do things a little bit differently, and I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I create a Facebook ad from coming up with the idea all the way to execution of it in Photoshop. And we are gonna be working with a real company. So I work with a company called Tactile Turn. We make these amazing pens down in Texas, and each season we come out with a seasonal release where it's just like a fun design on our classic pens, and we sell them for a limited time. So these are available this season, and it is hiking themed. You can see with the evergreens and the little Sasquatch character and then some speckles to indicate that it's a trail. Now this is especially fun because I'm working with two of my colleagues and we're all coming up with ads, and then we're gonna see who can create the best one. So you're gonna watch how I'm coming up with an ad to enter this contest between all of us, and then maybe in the next video or in the comments, I'll give you an update as to who won. My process goes something like this. First, I look for inspiration, and I look for inspiration by using ads that I like in something called a swipe file. So I have a swipe file in my playbook. I talk about playbook in another video, but it's just a way for me to consolidate all of my images. And I go through and I look at different ads and I pick ones that I like. And because I don't want to feature companies' ads without their permission or anything, I am going to skip the step and use something very similar. I'm going to look at my colleagues' ads so that we can see if they've done something that I like that I want to use in my ads. After I identify inspiration, I write down the things that I like that I want to incorporate into my ads. So we'll go through that together. Then I go look for the different assets that I'm going to need in order to compile my ad. And finally, I bring everything into Photoshop and I start playing around in Photoshop until something comes together that I like. When I talk about it like this, it seems like it could take hours or a day, but in reality, this takes 30 minutes. When you do it more often, you get really good at this, and then creating ads becomes very simple. With that in mind, let's get into the first step of inspiration. And you can see on my screen now that I have two ads. Normally I'd be going through like Facebook's ads library and I'd pick a bunch of different ads from companies and I'd put them all together and look for themes, but now we just have my two coworkers because these are the two ads that I feel safe showing. So let's look at what my coworkers did and see if we want to borrow any elements of it. First, I'm noticing a lot of white space. And actually, I don't think I want to do this because when you're testing Facebook ads, you want to try things that are wildly different, and the amount of white space here feels similar between the two. They're really nice designs, but I just want to do something a little bit different. I am noticing illustrations in both. So this one has the mountains in the background, and then we have this nice badge up here. The fonts look kind of similar, not taking themselves too seriously. And then this one has some benefits of the pen, which I really like. I just don't know if there's gonna be room in mine. So when I look at these two ads and I use them for inspiration, already for my ad, I'm thinking, I'm not gonna use as much white space as they are. I'm gonna take things a bit more seriously and look for more drama. And I probably won't use illustrations as much as they do. But I am also noticing that neither of them use this Sasquatch, which I think is the most fun part of this whole pen, is that little Sasquatch icon. So I'm definitely going to find a way to work that into my ad. Now that I have an idea of what I'm going for, something a little bit more dramatic, something with a full image instead of white space, something I'm gonna use more serious text for, I'm gonna move over to Unsplash and I'm gonna type in terms that I think are relevant to what I'm looking for and just search through their images. And when I find some that catch my eye, I'm gonna save those down. I'm gonna bring all those into Photoshop so I can just look at all of them and then think through how I could turn them into an ad. I realized that I liked mountain pictures. They just feel more dramatic. And as I talked about, I wanna do something different from what the other guys were doing. So I want something that's layered and maybe mountainous and just looks more dramatic to see if that theme would pull people in more than the illustrated theme. So I went with half dome. I like this because there's a nice layer here with the sky that I could write some text on. And as I'm thinking about this, I don't want to go through step by step like a tutorial for the Facebook ads. So instead, I'm going to speed through this and I'm going to give you a high level overview of why I'm making the decisions that I'm making. And that way, if you end up wanting to do this, you can go find how to do this online somewhere and it's pretty easy. But let's go ahead and look at the sped up version of how I created this ad. The first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to cut out the mountain. So I extended the sky because I knew that I was going to put some text up there. And then I wanted to cut out the mountain. And the reason that I cut out the mountain, whether I use it or not, was because I wanted to add some layers. So this would allow me to add a shadow to the mountain and give it a little bit more depth. Then I brought in a texture and added a texture to the background so that it felt more like a postcard. And that's when I brought in the pens. And you can see here I'm messing with the pens. Once I put the pens, I'm just like messing around here and just seeing what feels right. And I'm also adding some shadows. So the shadows, again, will give it some depth and allow the pens to stand out from the rest of the image. Then I got to text. So you can see here, because I moved the sky down or the mountain down, I had a ton of text to play with. And that's where I decided I was gonna use the Sasquatch. So I brought the Sasquatch in and replaced the A with the Sasquatch because I thought that it was just a nice touch. A little bit more texture for the text. So I used some like soil because I wanted to give it that gritty feel. And you can see here, I'm just like playing around with text and size and the different types of fonts. And what I really liked about this is that I added this, I have this whole bottom right real estate. So when you're putting this together, it's kind of like Tetris. You want to just play with things to see how they go. And you can see none of this is preconceived. I'm just doing it on the fly. But I have this really nice space on the bottom. And here's what I came up with for the text. This is the total ad. The total ad, I just brought in some nice text. It's the testimonial that I saw on our Instagram profile. And it says the sickest one so far. And I think, again, this is just keeping people's attention. So you can see, started with an idea, and this ad may look nice and formatted here, but it wasn't overly complicated. I played with some layers. I just went with what felt right. I knew I needed to bring the pen in, and I would say the effects that I use the most are white space within the image to make sure the font clearly stood out, and then also shadows and layering. So again, cutting out the mountains allowed me to add maybe a little bit of a shadow to it and give it more of a feel. The rest of this came from playing around and came from doing it a lot, especially something like replacing the Sasquatch as the A. It was just a fun design choice. And if you're tinkering around in Photoshop, you stumble into these things. Because I've been doing it a while, I know to look for, okay, this seems like an opportunity to replace this. Okay, so if you enjoyed this, I would love it if you like this video and hit the subscribe button. I'm happy to do more of these in the future. Generally on this channel, I'm gonna talk business stuff, learnings, and things that I see in my career. Really appreciate you sticking around and watching, and I will see you in the next one.